Good evening and welcome to the Wareham Finance Committee. Call the meeting to order. It's Wednesday, March 11th. May I have the clerk call the roll, please?
My far right, Jody Smith, Chair Bernie Pigeon, Vice Chair David Hurd, Pat Rudney, and myself, Jerry Stefanski. We have a quorum.
Thank you. First thing on agenda is approve the minutes of March 4th. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any changes, any concerns, questions? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? There's being none. Minutes are accepted. Moving on for the Finance Committee matters, we're going to be reviewing the annual town warrant and for the Article 6, the FY 2021 capital plan, which was adopted by the Planning Board, and we are asked to endorse it, which is what his town meeting is going to be doing. And as our special guest is Richard Clinton to do the presentation. And we've seen him before.
Yes, you did.
You have the floor, Richard.
I do. So, I'm here tonight to talk about the master plan. A little background. It was approved by the planning board in January. We worked on it pretty hard the second half of 2019, and we're going to town meeting with an article asking for the town meeting to endorse our master plan in a non-binding resolution. Town meeting approval is not required for master plan. The Massachusetts state law makes the planning board in every town responsible for the creation, modification, and approval of the master plan. So, I am prepared to do a very long presentation on the master plan, a very short presentation on the master plan. I can do just about anything you want. I think what would be convenient and to everyone's advantage would be if this is the same document. Oh, you already got, you
Yeah,
already have
it.
it.
Already have it, okay.
Yeah, just even our absent, even our absent members have it in their folders, so that's good.
This is just a summary of the master plan in terms of its mission statements and vision statements and the 8 mandatory goals outlined in Mass General Law that have to be there. That being said, let me just go through this. And I do understand clearly after talking with some of you privately that there's some concern about the lack of any mention or goals or strategies around our sewer treatment plant in the master plan. So let's talk, we can talk about that as well. What I'd like to do though, real quickly, is just go through what I'm gonna go through at town meeting.
Jody?
No, I can see fine.
First of all, let's just talk about what is a master plan. And it's very important to understand it's a vision and policy guide. And it's analysis of all aspects of our community in terms of where we want to go and how we want to be developed. And, oops, that wasn't supposed to happen that way. It's a plan for our evolution, but most importantly, this is really important, it's not a bylaw or a regulation. It's a vision statement. Some people, as we work through this, we start calling it a wish list of things we wanted to do. So it's a dynamic and evolving document, and it's a long-range scope. Now, dynamic and evolving is going to be important, I think, a little bit later when we start talking about how we change this document to include new things. So why do we have one? One is tasked to the local planning boards by Mass General Law. It's in Chapter 41, Section 81D. I don't know why these are all coming up in different orders, and I apologize for that.
You're the guy that gave me advice of what to buy for a computer.
It provides guidance to local government landowners and developers. And this guidance is a good one. On the planning board, we talk about when we have this document ready to go and in place, which we do now, that we can ask developers, and we can ask each other, are we in line with the master plan? Where are we opposed it? Or we can go to different agencies in town and ask, are you engaged, are you lined up? I mean, think about it. Think about the redevelopment authority and the Concom and the Conservation Commission. Pretty opposite ends in terms of goals, but the master plan addresses all that. And then set priorities for infrastructure and public facilities. Again, here, that's important when we start talking about the septic system. A little bit about the history, and I'm going to embellish on this a little bit. In 2018, Serped put together a master plan for us, and they did it based on a lot of documents that were currently in place. One of them was a 1998 master plan, community preservation plan, village study. You can read all the things that were there. And then there was a big public outreach program that was done with some workshops and open houses and online surveys and social media input. And Serped published that draft on April 18, and it sat there until last year when the planning board started getting more engaged and realistically took ownership of it, because I think it was being, in my opinion, it was being run by Ken down in the planning director's office, because the planning board wasn't doing it. So now the planning board fully understands that they own it and they're responsible for it. And my goal over the last 6 months of 2019 was to get an approved document in place. And to do that, from August through December of 2019, we had some workshop meetings. We went through it. We brought it up to speed, made a few changes to it, nothing really significant, but we did approve it in January. So it is posted on the town website as well. The contents are, as you see here, mission statements, vision statements, and goals. And those 8 goals that you see are all called out by Chapter 41, Section 81D. They have to be there. We also put a governance process in there. That's how we'll do maintain it and change it and update it. So in there are 8 categories, 20 goals and 56 strategies. 4 of them are duplicate strategies, and they break out like this. I'll let you read it for yourself. And then we have an update process, or this is part of our governance process. What we say is that how can we do changes? We can do them through a planning board member, another Wareham agency, the director of planning, the town administrator, or a Wareham citizen. I could have taken all that out and just said anybody, all right? But I thought it was important to spell that out. But anyone can come to the planning board and make a presentation with a summary of what they want to do, the motivation for it, what their expectations are, what the text of the update or change would be, and then the planning board has some options. We can approve it or reject it. We can approve it with some immediate modifications at that time. But I think what will happen most of the time is we'll solicit for additional input. Again, any or all sources of that input could be town administrator, director of planning, another agency, or a public hearing. In the discussions we've had, we think public hearing will be quite common. This is the town's master plan, and as you saw how Serped did theirs, they did a huge outreach to get input and whatnot. And we can't be in a jar while we try to do this. So then, with all that input, a representation with modifications, and an approval and a rejection by the planning board. That's how it works. So the next steps for us right now, and I've kind of put these on hold a little bit, and this Wareham Congress idea on hold until I get through town meeting. with the article on the resolution to endorse. So I feel comfortable and concrete on where I'm at. But to prioritize those strategies, there's 52 of them, to do public outreach. I look at online surveys we're gonna use. I'm gonna try to use some of the organizations up at the high school with the students. I've met with Matt Stanton up there, and there's possibilities we can get the kids involved to help on outreach. Been working with the Wareham Courier, the Village Soup Paper, I'm sorry, and Ann, to work with her about having her sponsor input sessions. The Redevelopment Authority right now is planning to have a public meeting, if you will, to and have it in an auditorium environment, to have a meeting and try to get people in so we can get more input. We don't have enough input right now from the people, so. But once we do have some strategies identified as immediate ones we want to take care of, we have to identify and acquire the resources to execute. One of the things that you'll see in the master plan, it's not a project plan or a program plan or a product plan or anything like that. It's a set of visions and goals as to where we want to go. And to that end, if we decide, or if we can get a group of people to decide to go execute on that, we need to find resources in terms of people, skills, capital, and time to do it. This is one of the things that I'm struggling with on the Congress, is that I'm asking existing town volunteers on existing boards to donate more time. And I'm not sure that's gonna work. But we have some other thoughts anyway, but we'll get there. So, all that said, what I'd like to do is take any questions you have right now, and we can do a deep dive on any of these strategies, or we can go right to the septic issue and talk to that. How do you think it should go, Bernie?
Well, you've done this presentation, so let's focus on that initially for any concerns or questions, and then we can finish up with the sewer issue.
You want to go on the deep dive, I think?
No, if they want, if they're interested in doing that,
It's
we
50 some
only have
odd
the room till
pages.
10 o'clock.
I don't think you want to do that.
Well, my thoughts, I think the wastewater ties into a lot of other things that are in this, whether it be housing,
Mhm.
you know, habitat, natural resources.
And
I think that's a,
Yeah, I don't think the wastewater has to be specifically mentioned, because it's an existing entity. But it could be that to support most of the development that they're talking about, the town needs to provide the resources to support that development. You build an apartment house, you need water. You need a number of things. You need schools that are gonna be providing for, because their kids are gonna move in. So those kind of resources have to be provided, and they could be addressed in terms of the town needs to support those.
So, a little more background. Because I sat with Ken, and I said, let's talk about the wastewater treatment plant, you know, when it wasn't in here, and it wasn't even commented on. Well, back in 2018, it wasn't high on anyone's list at the time. New police station was, it's in there. There's nothing about fire department. There's statements about library resources and accreditation that we had to change from get reaccredited to maintain our accreditation, because that was one of the updates we did. And I talked to you, Bernie, specifically, do we need to have police, fire, EMS, schools, wastewater treatment, every one of these, do we need to call out a high-level objective and goal for the town that's in the master plan? And I kind of think we do.
In some way, perhaps not a specific mention as I referred to, but they are the resources that are absolutely necessary to support us as a community, but to support any single development. Wareham Crossing could never exist unless they didn't have water, fire,
Sure.
and sewerage.
So then in other conversations I've had with people about this, I run up against the the concept that, well, those are kind of given things, and those are things that are run by, in our case, a town administrator and the departments of the town. And in terms of a vision or goal as to where this town wants to go, those are kind of no-brainer things that you shouldn't have to talk about. And I understand that concept. I understand where that's coming from. But,
Well, I think we've always mentioned sewer specifically, and just using that as context, and Jim can address it, we're reaching a point where we don't have the ability to provide sewerage to any new developments. And that, in that case, restricts some of your discussion of expansion of that base. And so therefore, even though it's happening in the background, it's pretty much stepped to the foreground because we have to have that before we can build another industrial center.
Sure. Well, if you look though, under service and facilities, strategy number 2, it's support the economic development and fiscal policies that are required to fund the local services and facilities desired by Wareham residents. And it goes on to state that we should aggressively pursue economic development to fund those services. And reading between the lines, I'm reading, go make industrial parks and get a commercial tax base to pay for your wastewater treatment, for your schools, for your fire, for your, for all these things. It's not specifically called out. But the interesting one is create a long-term capital improvement program. I don't know if there is one. Is there a CIP for the town? I know there is one for the sewer that was done in 2015, I believe, right, Jim?
Yes.
I don't know if there's one for the town. I mean, I have a copy of it here, and it's the one for the wastewater treatment is scary.
We may be thinking too narrowly in that we're specific mentioning the sewer, because we are concerned, Jim's concerned also. Obviously more concerned than we are, but in support of his concerns. But the report itself, looking back now, is intentionally vague, because it wants to include everything, and you do so, and I reread that particular place you're referring to, and yes, I would suggest that, yeah, the sewer is included in that. And I'm thinking back on now, that yes, the document has to be vague, because it has to support everything that you can possibly come up with without mentioning it and being specific. I could be specific and say, okay, this should give us an industrial park down in so-and-so location.
Sure.
I could put that in here, but that'd be self-defeating, because I may want
Right.
another one someplace else. So it has to be vague and cover every contingency in a manner such that it is included. It says that, okay, we have to be concerned about all these issues simultaneously, not the one we just mentioned, sewer. And yeah, so okay.
But I will
Give
tell.
it some thought.
See, you've got me thinking about it too, and I think that wastewater treatment, fire, EMS, police.
You're never gonna get excuse me, through you, Bernie. The fire departments, you ain't never gonna get them on board. They haven't been on board with the town now for a zillion years, and they're not gonna want anyone to put their thumb on anything they do but them. Because of the water district, it's not gonna happen. So, I mean, this is just my personal opinion now. I'll say it through Bernie. This is great, it's a great idea. You're gonna have to get every single board that's in this whole town, basically you wanna almost eliminate it and have one. The master plan, I just think where you're not gonna get the water districts on board, you got an uphill battle here, a serious uphill battle.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, what you say here is great for, any town. What you wrote here, it would be good, I just got a personal problem with, I hope you're just not spinning your wheels. I think you're gonna run into more roadblocks than you think you will, even though I think it's a good idea. It's my personal opinion.
You gotta come back to the dollars and cents of
Thank you, Dad.
having the separate departments or not having them. And then put it in front of the town and say, here, this is what it could be versus how it's currently configured.
I think this document would allow them, even though they're not part of the water and fire, are not part of the community itself or the municipality, it addresses it in such terms that says, if there is insufficient fire or water coverage, because we don't have enough water, then we can address them now. They have to respond on their own. You pointed out they're independent. Say, okay, the water quality is poor, and we're not able to expand because of that, and you should take care of it. We can't force them, but that's an identity to a service that we need to, in order to
Because of
expand.
the water department, you're constraining your industrial growth, your tax base,
Mhm.
then that's the cost
But that's the,
of maintaining the separation.
indeed.
And that's gotta be identified, that should be identified.
Well, I
This is a
think it
master
does-
plan not only for Wareham, it's really for the southeast, it's gotta
Yeah.
be bigger than,
But this,
That's why I would
Any
agree with
little
the
individual
vagueness
part
of
of
the
it, yeah.
terminology, that's all.
I'll put it simple. The wheel goes round and round. Pretty hard to reinvent it.
You always
I'll
gotta have
put it
some
in
gray areas.
Easy terms,
Yeah.
okay? It's about as easy as you can get. It's, you know,
but you're sitting back there, in 2070, you'd want it to look like this.
no, listen, I'll be dead, but that besides, it's a great
You're
idea.
legacy guy, you're legacy.
It's a great idea, don't get me wrong, it's a great,
Why do you have negative people in this community?
I'm not negative,
I wanted to
I'm
have
a
a
very
balance,
truthful
but I think I might have overdone it.
I just think it, for as good as it's written and it's got great ideas,
Well, I think
you
Don
get
might
this
have,
to fly, I'll applaud you naked
Sure.
on
I-
Main Street and give you 2 hours to draw a nickel crowd.
So you've heard me talk before, Dom, about, when I talked to you all about the Congress, and I talked to the fact that I wanted to use an approved master plan as a basis to go execute. And I said, there's 52 strategies there. If I could get a group of people to work on 3 of them, I'd be ecstatic. If I can get 1, I'll be satisfied.
I have no problem with voting for it to go forward, I just think you got a battle. that
Oh,
you should
I
win.
agree.
Okay.
But I think the point that I'm hearing, that I've heard from members of this board, and I think they're valid. I've kind of come around to your way of thinking, Bernie. It sounds like you're coming around to my initial way. If you look at the very first one, in services, it's review, update, and act on the recommendations of the 2007 police station feasibility study. So at the time this document was put together, people expressed a clear concern about the state of our police station. And it got put into the master plan. And it's in reference to document that's in place. Now, wouldn't it make sense maybe to have a statement in here that says, review, update, and act on the recommendations of the 2015 capital improvement program for the wastewater treatment plant? That sounds like a pretty reasonable goal to me to put in here. It's high enough and vague enough that it can be put in there without a hammer on anybody. One of the things that we did over the last 6 months of 2019 was soften the document. There were several strategies that said, implement it by this certain date, the following things. And we said, we can't make statements like that because we don't have control of the resources. We can encourage people to grab that bull by the horns and go try to do something, which I think is valid, but we can't mandate a program, because we have no resources to give anyone to do it with.
you don't have to mandate, but you can drive. Because you have to have, in order to be successful, you have to have some short-term goals. Because if you have accomplishments, it encourages them to continue on.
Sure.
And in this case, with the referencing the police station, the document itself has to be revised every so many years. So when you accomplish the success of building a police station, it can drop out.
Sure.
But you can then get another short-term goal. But you have to have something within the document, have a short-term goal that you can build your long-term goals on. and the necessity of a police station. The second one, improve outcomes for the Wareham students, teachers, and families.
The high level, how high level can you get with this?
But
Right.
we know too, though, the real estate, if they look at the level of schools that we have in Wareham, it's not encouraging. So that's another issue, and that's an ongoing one. And yes, it should be in here, because again, you need some goals. People need goals that they can identify with and get on board with, so that they don't have to be the leader, but they know how to work as a worker bee. And so that, okay, there's success, and then you go on from that, what do we do next? Well, you can revise the plan and find some new ones,
Yep.
or you can go back and say, here, there was some, we were talking about, we can talk about till we're blue in the face about merging the two water departments and fire departments and everything, but it ain't gonna happen. But it's something that we always talk about, so that's another goal, long-term.
But
Very
that's a
long-term.
particular goal that at some point in time can go into effect. It's gonna depend on you people, and I'm saying this for the town as a whole, not just you individually.
Right, right.
Gotta get off your ass and go vote at the district meeting. Right now, you let them run the district just the way they want it, because none of you go out there and vote for it.
They pay for it, though.
We all
Everyone
pay
that
for
pays for it, everyone that's in the
Yeah.
district pays for it, but most of you in the district do not go out and vote at the annual meeting. So you can sit here and whistle and whine
Wasn't
and
even a
cry.
dozen people at Onset last, the Onset yearly meeting, Water District. Wasn't a dozen people there,
Yeah, but they're all onset people.
of course. Well, you have Wareham District and Onset District.
I
Well, I
understand,
understand.
but I'm
Onset
all
District,
aware
there
of
was
that.
no one there to vote.
No, Onset District is gonna be Onset District, and you gotta get, if you've been around long enough, you know that Onset is Onset, period. It's by itself, except when it has to be part of Wareham. Okay, that's the game.
I don't believe that.
So
What's the attention to Water District besides
We're
that,
getting
it relies on Wareham for
We're getting a
everything.
little afield here.
Right,
That's
sorry.
Right.
And Richard's there just glazing over,
No, I'm,
but I think I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Richard, town meeting will vote to endorse this, accept it. What is the concept, and what does that mean if town meeting votes on the master plan?
Great question, Dave.
And what will it do as far as future changes? Does town meeting have to vote on any future change to
no,
it?
no. I wanna say this very politically correct, okay? A lot of people that, the planning board and myself have discussed this whole master plan concept of planning board owning it and approving it, have had, a lot of people have had an awful lot of heartburn about this has to go to town meeting for approval. And I talked to him, I said, Dad, no, it doesn't have to. That's the law. And then I started to understand where they were coming from, and that they were very anxious that something as significant as a master plan could be implemented and approved without even a mention at town meeting. And so I talked to town council, and I talked to the moderator, and we came up with this idea about endorsement. I talked to some people that have done this in other cities, and this is how they do it. It's used as a vehicle to inform more than anything else. This is what the article looks like. It says, to see if the town will vote to accept the following resolution to endorse the 2020 master plan, and you can read it for yourself here.
So by endorsing it, it means it doesn't become
It's a big word.
a guideline, a specific guideline for the town, but I think we have to maintain the fact that it's a vision statement.
Yes.
That's the critical item, it's a vision statement. This is kind of what we'd like the town to emerge as, for our kids.
So the slides I went through are the ones I'm gonna show at town meeting,
Mhm.
with probably get rid of the animations being out of order. I don't know how that
Makes it
happened.
interesting.
I know how it happened. I just upgraded my PowerPoint from 2013 to 2019 version. And that shouldn't have done that, though. I just did it. Anyway.
You know what happens when you do that.
Sure. So what we're saying here is that town meeting, please endorse the fact that your planning board, tasked by Mass General Law, has done this. Here's where to go read it. Come to the planning board and talk about it. If, that's, and does it mean anything? If they vote no, does anything happen? Nothing happens.
So you're asking them just to agree in principle
Pretty much.
to the master plan as adopted by the planning board,
And a lot,
which is required by law, Mass General laws to do so.
a lot of towns don't go to town meeting with it. But I think, as I talk to people and I listen to what they have to say about going to town meeting, it was very important to them, and they impressed upon me that it was important for the people that do go to town meeting, that they would feel slighted if something like this happened and it wasn't brought up there, and that made a lot of sense to me. So, this is the strategy that we came up with. Does that make sense, Don?
It does, but where does the implementation of power come from? Where do you?
That's phase two. It is.
Okay, I am ahead of myself, okay.
No,
okay.
no, it's right along that whole Congress concept. Once I can get agreement that these are the goals, let's pick one and go try to execute it. Now, who's gonna do that? Is it my Congress? Probably not. Is it a Citizens Action Committee? Maybe so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet.
And I think people would like to know, this resolution is not costing them any money.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Well,
Yeah,
the other point would be,
That's a plus.
if something comes forward that costs money, it still has to come in front of them.
Of course, yes.
Well, you're saying, of course, we know that, but people,
To your point, I wanna emphasize over and over again, this is our wish list, our vision statement, our direction setting, our goal statement. It's at a high level. Yeah, Tom?
I'm sitting here and I'm saying, that we have a train station here 3 years from now. We gotta do a whole lot of different things, and this town is gonna be a heck of a lot different because of becoming closer to a bedroom town, Boston, than what it is today. Whether the bridges get built or don't get built. I mean, that is a key change that could happen. So I think the master plan ought to recognize these are some of the things that are outside of our purview today, but are potential factors that could greatly change the character of the things that we're trying to we're gonna be doing.
I think it's covered in here.
Pardon me?
I think it's pretty well covered in here from what I see.
It's a reasonable dynamic
Yeah,
document.
I mean, it doesn't
and the train does change the character a lot, and it's not all good.
specified, but it's alluded to. And I think that's-
But
at least
the
I'd be
pace at
happy
which
that's
these
what
things
you're
have gotta happen, and they've gotta happen to take advantage of it.
Can I say those words back to you in my words? If the train comes to Wareham, I believe you're 1,000% correct. The whole nature of this town's gonna get turned upside down. And we don't talk to that so much in here, in terms of, we don't talk about in the master plan having an objective or a goal to improve commuter services into the city. And by not having that in there, we don't then take it to the next step in terms of understanding the ramifications if that happens. Because it would have a huge impact. It'd have a big impact on all our infrastructure in terms of supporting it,
The whole area.
and it would have a huge impact on the culture of this town. It would become a bedroom community, which is, it's not what it is now.
But isn't your report or your plan focused more on what we as Wareham can accomplish versus what outside forces may throw at us? If they determine to bring a railroad down here, Wareham will express the desire for it, but as far as it actually coming, those forces and decisions are all outside of our purview.
You know, it's just a matter of time.
But we have to be dynamic enough, because if you leave this on the top of the file cabinet to collect dust, it's not gonna improve anything. Whereas if the document itself is taken down and remains dynamic, then you can change when you have to. And to Tom's point, if the railroad does come down here, yeah, there's a lot of things that are gonna change for us. And the document itself has to be changed.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah,
Is this document, as I'm understanding it, I think, is kind of a fungible unit? In other words, it's still, it can be subject to change going forward.
change it every week.
Okay. On that basis, from what you just were alluding to, and you've already covered that, I think, under land use goals, number 1, focus redevelopment improvements in Wareham Village and Onset Village. There's your train station. It's in there.
There might be an addenda, maybe some sort of an addenda that could be put on that is, no details, but projections of what might happen in the future somewhere. Where you might periodically list things that people might be looking for.
It would
In the
seem to
future.
me that that would be the thing that you probably look at an annual or every 2-year review of this document to see if these kinds of things are moving forward, and they should be included. It seemed that at this point, from what he's done with this, I mean, this looks like a great document to me. It looks like it basically covers the bases, it opens the door, it gets people hopefully involved, and something to go forward with.
And to be more specific, it certainly covers the potential changes along Merchants Way.
Oh, yeah, covers that. I mean, it does cover the sewer department, but if, if you read in between the lines. So it's in there, just not highlighted, if you will. And I think probably at this juncture, from the work that he's done and from the looks of this,
Oh, I commend him for his
It-
work.
it seems to me that it, at this juncture, until there's an acceptance of the concept here
Concept.
by the town, it would kind of only muddy the waters to add too much more specifics, too much specificity. Yeah, you know the word I'm looking for, it's out there. It's there, anyhow.
And hopefully, Jim,
Specificity.
they can be vague enough in
Yeah.
93 pages, because that's the right.
Jesus.
I was reading the Franklin, Mass. Master Plan just today. It's 217 pages. And
See, nobody's gonna read that.
they take it down, they got a little bit of project management in it, so. Keep in mind, and this is just me talking now, if I can get to town meeting in April and get this passed, I will have accomplished what for the planning board was step 1. And that's, there is a master plan, it's not collecting dust, there is an owner, there is governance around it, and let's talk about it. And, I mean, Tom, I'm fascinated with the comment you made about the train station, in that I think the master plan has to encompass that, because we don't want to, 3 years from now, going, oh, the train station's here, what are we gonna do now? We need to start thinking about that now.
Or do we say we don't want a train station here?
Well,
I mean, that's,
I'm under the impression that the town desperately wants a train station.
well, I am too, and this, with the way, what's happening in Boston, the problems Boston has, it's coming. Because people have to live, and they're gonna be able to commute to Boston in an hour.
And then with
I
the
mean, that's what's
traffic,
gonna-
the
it's gonna
traffic is
happen.
the worst, yeah.
We're gonna have buildings that are 8, 12 stories high, with small apartments in them and things of that nature. Those, let's put them in the right place, let's have them supported, the people that are living there supported properly. I mean,
Hans will have to go out and buy another ladder truck.
Property
Yeah.
right across the street from where the train station's gonna be, I'm sorry.
I think the first stage is getting, saying here, you're presenting it to it, you're not asking the town to follow everything that's in it. You're saying you're endorsing it as a vision statement.
Right.
It's a state thing, yeah.
Well said,
And-
that's perfect.
That's really what we're doing. We're not saying, okay, we're gonna make sure, we're gonna assign
To be right-
X number of dollars to
Yeah,
section 4, item 3A.
right.
We're not doing that.
Right.
That's the future. That's what other people can put in.
But it's already working. I mean, just because of what you said, Tom. people are reading this, looking at the direction, and someone's raising their hand and saying, we're not talking enough about the wastewater treatment. We're not talking enough about commuter rail and what the impact of that is if it comes here. Do we want it? And if we do want it, how do we want it? How do we want it to look and impact our town? I know folks in West Wareham aren't gonna want any changes, you know, they're gonna, let's say, go do it over.
But their land value's gonna go up because something's gonna happen to it, huh? You know,
But
they're gonna have to change.
So it's working already.
We're talking here,
Exactly,
which is the purpose of the document.
exactly.
Because if it's not in here, we're telling you it should be in here, and we're talking about the subject. So the document is accomplished what it wants to do. It stimulates the conversation, because it is an addendum, as David points out, current areas of interest. Just as an attachment to
The
say,
planning board should be high enough and looking up far enough with enough vision to see all these maybes, probablys, likelies that are gonna happen to the town and what its impact on the town. I mean,
You're gonna
You
trust us to
shouldn't
do
wait for the
that?
town to come to you and say, let's get rid of the old houses, but we should be up here and say, this is what,
Well, we have a town
Where-
planner now too.
huh?
I said, he's saying, does the town trust the planning board to do it? You have a town planner now also, which we never had for a long time. And so his vision and you guys' vision,
Part of
Yeah,
my message that I had intended to use with you guys tonight was, here's the FinCom, they have some passion and some beliefs around wastewater management in this current state of affairs here. Why don't you guys come to the planning board with an update proposal on how you'd like to see it written in the master plan? And then I can go to the WRA and get them to comment about the trains, for example. But I'm not gonna, if I rely on just the planning board to manage this vision statement at a high level, it's not gonna work. I need everybody to get engaged, and I see, so I hear some passion here, I wanna tap into it. They don't need, you know, that's just my thought. We all work together, I mean, it's starting to happen, you know, and as long as we don't get with our blinders on in the planning board, and our blinders on in the ZBA, or our blinders on in the conservation, or whatever, you know, we can.
get out of our silos.
Yeah, you guys coming to planning board last week was,
we're a difficult board or committee to do something like that, because unlike any other board within the town, we work for town meeting only. We don't even show up on the organization chart because of that. So it's a little awkward for us to go in and push something, because we usually have to take the lead as to how town meeting wants to go. Now, if town meeting endorses that, that would give us the ability to act, because any action of town meeting, we are involved in. We are the agent of town meeting, in fact.
don't hold
We're
yourself back.
citizens.
But we can come in as individuals,
As a citizen, yeah.
right?
Yeah, but no, I'm serious, after town meeting acts on this, it's an action of town meeting to endorse. We're an agent of town meeting. When they adjourn, we are enforced to what they do.
I
If
see.
they've endorsed
Yeah.
it, we can be there.
Good.
So in other words, what he's saying is, he is part of your committee now.
That was his way of volunteering.
Bernie likes the
It's a
ball.
singular interpretation.
Okay, so some other boards have already accepted this as they're gonna,
No,
what I'm looking for.
not really,
The only reason I ask is, just here, you don't wanna stop muddy in the water. I'd like to see this something about the sewer. I certainly don't, if other boards, I don't want you to have to go back and say, well, the FinCom came forward with this, and you kinda muddy things sometimes, you know, that's my only point to that. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, you go to another board, they might think a new school's a better idea, you know, I mean, I just,
and
you put a good
I
document
hear,
together.
I hear you, but, and also you have to keep in mind that just because we go through a process to update the master plan to address commuter rail or wastewater, treatment facilities, doesn't make it happen. It just means that we've talked about it a little bit, which is a good thing, but, that's all it means, so.
I just think this is, like you said, this is a great starting point, this is a great job, after town meeting, you can sit down and say, you know what, the next town meeting, we might wanna add something about the train,
Right.
or add something about the sewer, or something else that may come up from someone else. You know, and then, you know, you don't have to bring no master plan forward, you're just bringing back these,
Yeah, one of the things I'm struggling with is, say we added a goal in there around wastewater management, a little more specific than what we have, something along the lines of the police station goal. Do I take that back to town meeting? I don't know, I don't think so.
That's really awkward because there's a separate committee
Sure.
that runs that operation.
Sure.
And they're an elected committee.
Now, is this something that you might come back periodically to town meeting and just report on? Not vote, not for a vote, but just say, we had the master plan in 2018 and we had 6 meetings and people have suggested that we had considered these items in the future.
And we
And,
acted on these two.
We acted on these two and this is what has happened.
Yeah.
Maybe just a periodic report to town meeting would be good.
So that's one of the things I learned about recently in redevelopment authority, in that we have the right or privilege to make a report at town meeting. And right now, the intent is that we will do that. And we could do exactly the same thing here, on an as-necessary basis, right?
Because there's an article
Yes.
always on town meeting to accept reports. They're generally referring to reports that the town meeting has requested.
Right.
And you have to ask Claire about a piece of time within it. General town meeting, not that article, because that article specifically refers to reports by committees town meeting has requested. But yes, I would suggest doing that, because I find frustration even with the school building committee that I ask, you're doing a presentation at town meeting. No, why not? They're the ones that appointed the $90 million to build it. So they should be apprised of how well it's going. And this is a good position for you to be in, because you can get their support. And that speaks to the other committees that you want to have involved in your Congress. Because I would suggest that Congress would be the impetus to get this underway, and more so than the planning board itself.
Have you talked to the other departments?
About the master plan?
Yeah, the prudential committees and,
No.
well, I mean, that's a part of the town.
Sure. Well, but keep in mind, we had the 28 version, which had done all that. And all we did in 2019 was basically tune that up to make it up to date.
Or have they got any things that they have, that they wanna have as part of the master plan?
Not that I'm aware of. I hear what you're saying. One of the things I used to preach to the planning board is that we're not gonna satisfy 99% of the people we're talking to, but we gotta move forward with, we own it, we gotta write it, we have to approve it, and we have to edit it and keep it up to date, so.
And the selectmen have unanimously
Pardon me?
approved it. And the selectmen have unanimously endorsed it.
They did. I don't know if they read it.
Jerry?
I got this audit report, I went a little anal on it for some figures, but I want to try to break the assets of the town into 3 buckets, display those buckets on this plan. The town has net of depreciation, okay, you take historical cost minus depreciation, you arrive at a net figure of 75 million, of which some of this is the 2 schools, the schools that are now, okay. So let's just say we pull out 15 million for the schools. So the town, all the assets of the town would be, say, 60 million. The school, 15. We're gonna pile another 90 on that
With the new one.
with the new one. And then, the water pollution control, 60 million net. So, I'm just saying that you have,
You believe that number?
not in here, okay, you would have the school first with town and the water pollution. About responsible for the same amount of assets, the water pollution in town, and the school's gonna. So when you're going through these and thinking of these goals, I think you also need to kind of understand the assets that are going to support the goals, or what assets you have to support with the goals. But, that's the audited figures that have come out this June 30, 2019.
Say it again.
This is the audited statements as of June 30, 2019. So those are the current figures. Again, I must say,
Is
okay,
that
that it's
isn't-
cost, historical.
Not today's market, it doesn't reflect
No,
today's
no,
market.
it's cost minus depreciation. It is not replacement cost. Now, the schools are probably the closest to the replacement cost, but, you know, I don't think there's been too much work done over, that would be recent, of the 60 million.
No, we've got a plan that we could spend that, but.
And you probably
the
got,
practicalities are that the money is not there to be able to do what needs to be done. And that's why we've been trying to chipping away at it wherever we can, and unfortunately, every time we set a priority for this, it gets bumped for that. I mean, we'll be coming up with.
So- yeah,
And it's,
and then if you were to think of replacement costs or of everything you got in the ground, you approach $500 million.
well, I mean, that's another issue by itself, we've been working on that.
But these are figures that you have to at least be aware of when you're talking what you wanna do.
Well, see,
And,
that,
you know,
I think we, i.e. sewer department, is aware of that particular problem. However, outside of it, there's no knowledge of it that's realistic, or that's accepted, I should say.
that's all pretty,
So we own some expensive property,
we do. To replace it, it would be.
as to now, yeah. Okay,
So
Richard.
what is the process? Are you all going to have a recommendation vote on the endorsement article?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Have I answered all your questions to your satisfaction? I know.
And I think what you've actually proved here that stimulates the discussion that you're looking for.
So Tom, have I created more questions?
No, I just, you know.
I hope I
just-
have.
I mean, to me, a master plan is, got a lot of frosting, and it really drives, is a driver for the town. It isn't little things on the side, it's a master plan
Right.
as to what maybe our vision should be for the next 15 or 20 years. And very small, part of it would happen, but if we're not thinking out ahead, we're never gonna progress. I mean, Rochester, Duxbury, Kingston got together with this call center thing. Three towns got together and had a call center, and it's a lot more efficient than what we got. We got 3 call centers in town. From a people point of view and from an efficiency point of view, it just don't make any sense. So why aren't we thinking about what, from technology point of view and from our ability to grow and make, and be more efficient in how we perform, what's out there? What should we be trying to move toward or thinking about, know about?
Now I have all these questions.
Huh?
But, I mean, this is good. Anyway, I'm done, right, Bernie?
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you for
I
coming.
appreciate very much the opportunity to talk and also to hear you talk back and for me to listen and build this dialogue. So that's what we're gonna continue to do.
Well,
All right.
keep shaking the tree, I think you're
Yeah,
doing.
thank you for all your work, you know, a lot of work.
Okay,
I commend you on that.
Jim, did you want to use the same thing, planning presentation or anything?
Yeah, on the 12th. Of November.
Sewer department's got their own problems.
Well, Jim's not here, he's representing sewer tonight.
Oh,
Although
no.
we probably sneak in a few questions, but
I can do that too, but
I got a major question.
what,
Which is-
can't you flush? I mean, there's,
Can I talk for 2 minutes? Do you mind? The sewer department needs all this money to fix all and do everything like that. Yet, they're relying on the most archaic billing, EDU system in the country. So that, if you need money for infrastructure to do all this stuff, you need to generate funds. In order to generate funds, you guys need a better way to generate funds, not the most archaic system in the country. There's only 3 towns in all of Massachusetts that still uses the EDU system. That ought to tell you guys something, that you're doing something wrong on getting your money, okay? Number one, my opinion is you should have a level of whatever you need from every household, 500, 600 bucks, and then do it by water usage. You got people and companies out there that are using 100 times more water than they're being billed for. End my conversation.
okay, now tell me something I don't know.
Okay, well, but you're not doing nothing about it.
The hell we aren't.
Okay, that's what I wanna hear. You know, I've heard about the EDU system now, let's see, I brought it up maybe 12 years ago.
Well, then why don't you bring up with the water department, why don't they give us the water rates? We had them
That is
before
public knowledge. You guys wanna go and get it, you can get it.
Yeah,
You've been
but you-
dragging your feet on getting it, they don't have to give it to you, it's available to you. Okay? So, I don't wanna hear that statement.
After the
okay, let's
fact.
not get too,
I'm sorry, I get hot, you know
I
that.
understand
After
that,
the fact. It's too far, it's too late for us.
Okay.
To go that way to get it. We've been trying to get it, all they've gotta do is push a button basically and send it to us.
But just
Their
like-
attitude,
Yeah,
their attitude is if we do that and people see how much they're using, they'll cut back on the water usage and we're in the business to make money.
But you have a, but have a,
And that's a whole separate department and whole separate town
but
Well-
each,
than we are.
but each water district has, what I'm asking you guys to have, they have a minimum. Onset has a minimum, if you don't use the minimum, you still pay,
I
you pay
agree
the
with
minimum,
that.
then you pay over.
That's the system I've been trying to get in place now for the last 5 years. However, it's dependent upon water.
but I would, in Jim's behalf, I would tell that the Department of Revenue, our Department of Revenue has specifically said in their statements of our audit, is that it is an unfair system.
I
We
agree,
know that.
couldn't agree
Our
more.
auditors that we pay every year has made the same statement, it's an unfair system.
Bernie, 12 years ago, they said the same thing.
Yes, but
So
Dominic,
how do we change
if
it?
we are asking for the money, excuse me, if we're asking for the information, how would you suggest we get it if they refuse?
But it's all there in black and white, but
They own
they don't
it.
have, no, they don't
Own
have
it.
to give it to us.
They own
It is
the system.
public knowledge
Yeah.
of what my water use is, your water use is, everyone's water use is, so
Okay.
they can get it.
I understand.
Okay.
What I'm asking though is how do they go about getting it if they refuse?
That's what we
Because
have.
they don't need their approval,
Yeah.
Bernie. They don't need their approval to get it.
Yes, they do.
No, they do
They
not.
own it.
It's public,
It's public information.
yes.
Okay,
So
I
it's
have
public,
it.
they only
Dominic,
need
please.
information.
Okay, we're going very far
Okay,
afield,
okay,
very far afield, and I agree with you,
okay.
I certainly do. And Jim agrees, everyone on his committee agrees.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And-
That's
and-
on my agenda, that's on our agenda every meeting.
But
Yeah,
you're
we're-
not doing anything about it.
Let's
Excuse
find out
me.
from town council what we can do.
May I suggest then, and excuse me for doing this,
No,
tune into their meetings.
I do. Sorry.
Are you-
I
are
see
you
what
up,
they,
Jess?
I see what they do.
Are you live?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
trying to get our Nielsen ratings up a little higher.
Listen,
Well,
I
maybe-
live
My
a boring,
question, obviously, I don't watch your meetings.
I live a boring
Although
life.
I
I
have.
watch most of this crap, man.
I
I
stopped-
read everything, okay?
I think I stopped watching when I kept texting Sandy, and she never, she never reads it during.
Line her up.
Dominic, we all agree.
Okay.
See, but you wanna do it electronically, you don't want somebody to have to punch in all the numbers and all that stuff, I understand the public information.
Okay, but the
But
districts, like you
Mistakes
said,
are made.
the district, that's the same trouble with the master plan's gonna have with the districts. They are self-sufficient, they are arrogant, they do what they wanna do, and they got the money to do it.
And when was the last district meeting you went to?
I I go to Onset all the
Oh,
time.
you're in Onset?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
I
you're
don't
in
go to
Onset.
Wareham. I mean, I own property in Wareham. I could go to Wareham's, but that's like the most, that's, you think Onset is rigged? Wareham wants something for
Okay.
boat, they call up their friends and they go and they all boat.
Let's bring it,
That's the simple over there.
let's bring us back to the purpose that Jim's here, capital planning.
Okay. Go ahead, boss. I'm sorry, I'll shut up now.
I'm here for what?
And he even brought his steel cane with him, so I mean,
Jim, you're still smiling, which is good.
Hey, listen,
Don't
It's a
mind me,
grimace.
Jim.
you can't laugh
I
at
get
yourself.
rattled easy, I'm
You
sorry.
can't laugh at yourself, but
I get rattled easy.
okay, you're looking for buses, front-end loader, street lights, and repeaters for the, police and electric vehicles.
that's all.
That's all, we're done? Good, thank you for coming. The buses, we gave them money for buses a year ago, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
2 years ago.
Last year.
Do they have a cycle plan that you are aware of?
We've had cycle plans with this going back 20 years, and they've never followed it. So, I'm gonna have to say, right now, we're not in a cycle plan. We're getting closer, but we're not there.
Okay, because I know I've spoke with her, and she said these two buses are beginning to give her significant mechanical problems. And they've got to pass inspection, of course, considering what they're carrying.
What happened on that, several years ago, we were in dire straits for buses, and we ended up buying 2 used ones, I believe.
Correct.
And so although in the capital plan, the projection, there is money allocated in future, or projected in future years for buses. So there is the capital planning committee has set it out that, yeah, we expect in the future, we're going to be buying more buses each year until we get
Through the turn,
Yeah.
just the regular
turnout.
turnover.
So it is, if you look at the 5-year plan, it does have school buses in there.
All the way through, I noticed it did, yes.
Right.
Now, do you recall off the top of your head, either one of you, how many we have in the fleet?
36, 38, isn't it, something
I
like
think
that?
the numbers end up working out over
Yeah,
there.
it's somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't-
Does that
Sounds like I can
show
find it
the,
right now,
school
but-
bus values? Or how many, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't
believe so.
break it
Doesn't
out.
break it out?
Doesn't
No.
matter, no. Oh, easy to find, of course.
But I have a quick, Upper Tech found that it was actually cheaper to only own a few buses for longer routes and to sub it out. Is that, what they actually, over a long period of time, it was cheaper to pay a transportation company to do it than to own the buses and maintain them.
Yeah, they did that analysis 2 years ago here.
Yeah.
And they found that it would have cost us more if we outsourced the buses than
Really?
keeping them in-house. Because we do our own mechanic, we do our own repair work and all in-house. So that saves us a significant amount of money. But they did a price comparison
Yeah,
to leasing a fleet, or, not leasing, excuse me, contract for another service,
right,
which I think Dutch does.
okay. If they looked into it,
Yeah, they
I
have.
don't remember they looked into it, but I just know that they found that it isn't.
I
The other-
think it could be because, you know, they cover a greater geographical area
Could be.
and like, yeah.
When I was on the
the,
committee, we did that.
That's right.
That's 10 years ago.
You know, the police actually got on a pretty good program now that, because we used to run into the same trouble with the police years back, to where the cars were junky and nothing, but now they're in a great rotation.
They are, yes.
So that should be what, hopefully you try to get into, that easier rotation. It's not all money all at once, it's
Right.
a little bit spread out, that's,
If I can interject on that, on the capital planning aspect, the reason you're into that program now is because we're leasing the stuff. But before, we were buying it. We tried to maintain it, so we would run it longer than we should. It was costing us more to maintain the damn things than buying a new one would've. And then we'd farm it out into one of the different departments here in town and spend more money to maintain the stupid machines. So now, they're pretty much all lease.
Yeah, I don't think we own any of the fleet.
No.
There are some, private vehicles they use.
Yeah,
They would be personal, but they're, rehab to
They
accommodate
just-
lights and everything.
They just bought 2 in the fall, right?
yeah.
They bought
Police, sure.
used buses, because the
Yeah,
Yes,
two of them
Right.
failed to pass
right,
muster.
right.
If we ever looked at, I drive down the street and there's probably four stops on Great Neck Road that they stop at, and parents are out there smoking, sitting in the car with their kids. And the kids have to, right now, if they're within a mile and a half or 2 miles of the school, they should walk to school.
I think they went for a mile,
I think it's
mile
a
and
mile.
quarter, mile, yeah.
Whatever it is. What happens if we have the kids in the 4 stops on Great Neck Road walk
Walk to
to
one.
a common place there, and so you got one stop, but isn't even the whole road, and the kids get some exercise,
Do they have sidewalks?
huh?
I was gonna say, the sidewalks, it gets to be a safety issue.
Yeah.
Too, you know, you don't want the kids walking
That's why
on
they
the
pick 'em
street.
up.
Well,
They
that,
don't-
okay,
no
that's
sidewalks to pick 'em up.
great, but I'm just
Look
wondering,
at
if we ever
safety
looked
of
at at the whole layout and say, are there opportunities where kids
shut
could
it
go
off
to
in my pocket.
a central point and we could be more efficient in how we run our buses? Because apparently getting drivers is difficult, and we're spending $1.5 million a year on busing.
But I think there's a state law. If there's sidewalks, they can walk, but there's
I
no
remember.
sidewalks.
Huh?
I was on that committee too. I've been here long enough to be on this committee and that committee.
Boy, you're old.
I am old.
God.
No, she,
I
Cut
beg your
that
pardon, that's not on the agenda.
they don't stop at individual houses.
Yeah.
If you look at where they're stopping on Great Neck Road, for the most part, they're stopping at the ends of fairly long roads.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
cul-de-sac roads there.
Those
and
cul-de-sac
stuff. Yeah,
roads,
yeah,
so-
yeah, yeah.
When you talk about snow, you know, we didn't have any this year, but if there's snow out there,
Right,
I think the only ones, because they run separate buses for the pre-K and Ks, they do door to door.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they do
They
some
do.
door to door,
Yeah.
depending on the situation.
But that's because those kids, they don't want to walking,
right.
even to the neighbor's house and all. My kids they used to walk a block further because that
Yeah.
corner, the bus stopped on. So
Mhm.
they'd grab the bus there.
Yep, but
But no,
Going
there is
back
a state
to-
law, if there's no sidewalks, then you pick them up on the door. And,
But the issue was, do we have a ongoing program in capital planning for vehicles? And the answer is yes.
oh, you wanna go back to
We're
that?
working on that. Let's finish that one up.
But, it's difficult to say or how a bus is used. I mean, let's say you buy one, and then 3 years later, 2 of them are still in great condition and one's crappy. Is it because the route they're on, the way they're driven, or whatever?
Probably all of the above.
Yeah,
Well, some buses, they take the sporting events and stuff too, so they're gonna get more miles and things like that.
some of them.
Right,
I don't think they get to be able to keep track of how many miles they're putting on, you know, so they kind of rotate the buses that make occasional road trips,
Yeah.
stuff.
But I think what they're attempting to do, long-term, as we've mentioned here, is get on a rotation. And we do buy them, we don't lease them. And so we're there until they begin costing us, and that's the
Did
one
that
we
committee,
replace.
excuse me, did that committee, look into leasing rather than buying?
it was a lot of years ago. I don't think they made that comparison,
Do we
but
lease it,
I
do we
would
lease it
not.
now?
No.
No, okay.
Not even the little ones. No. Okay, moving on,
Could I have a front-end loader question?
yeah, that's what we're gonna do next.
One of them's got 14,000 hours on it, which averages 400 hours a year. What's the trade-in value against 270,000, or is it that within the 270,000 that you wanna spend?
I don't believe he's trading that in.
didn't get an answer on that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question
Don't
too, whether it
believe
was
that's-
trading in or
Do we need
they-
3 of them, because we'll have 3 of
I'm
them?
pretty sure
And
that's,
what's the maintenance that they spend on them?
30 years old, 1990.
Anyway, for us to look at something like that and say $270,000 makes sense, I'd like to see how the heck you got to $270,000. How much
That's
spending
probably-
and maintenance and all of.
I'm sure the 270 must include various accessories.
I know Derek,
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you, Richard.
I know
Have a good
Dick
evening.
Dick, Richard, yeah, Derek talked about the fact that the maintenance on it has become quite expensive. I don't recall his exact figures. But it's at the point where,
It's not worth it, but like Tom said, it's gotta have some value.
mhm,
So it's gotta be worth something.
Well,
Right.
and the new one may be twice as efficient too. I mean, I don't know, I don't know
that I
why you
can't
made
answer.
that decision, but
Well, I guess-
I would just like to see the thought process behind it, not necessarily, I'm not saying you don't need a new front end loader.
No,
Yeah, I go with Tom, if there's 8 items picked out, probably 20 or 30 that were presented, how did these 8, what was the process for picking these specific 8 as opposed to not the other 20?
Well, the process was really coming from Derek, from the direction, because he's got the final say. All we could do is make a recommendation to him. Streetlights have been an ongoing capital plan item for like the last
Yeah.
6 or 8 years now anyhow.
Yeah.
That has a
There's some
saving.
money savings involved in that.
That's a money saving, you're right, they gotta use
Right.
LEDs, they're gonna cost you a lot less, so that's a no-brainer.
But you ought to see it on here as to how you get there.
Okay, that's what you want, all right, I didn't do that. And like the repeaters for the communications, that's an ongoing thing. They've been trying to upgrade that. Right now, we're at the point where the equipment that they have, what this is gonna replace is stuff that really isn't working.
What is a repeater anyway?
It boosts the signal from here.
It's 5G, huh?
Found a couple towers around town, aren't they?
It'll go to the other towers around it, so they can cover the whole town. They've had problems with that because they've had dead spots in the areas where they
Okay,
can't
so-
get the communication back and forth.
I think even Matt talks about that in terms of some other radio equipment that he has.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing, I mean, Matt's got that's a whole separate problem he's got down there. I mean, he's got issues
Hmm.
as well, because he just doesn't have the stuff he needs. He doesn't have
Is that within this as well?
the negative, unfortunately, because that didn't get, that
They
didn't
got,
float high enough with the amount of money that was available. That also triggers what winds up. It becomes what's the most
Bang for your
urgent
buck, yeah.
for the money that we've got to spend.
there's 6 pages of potentials, and
Oh,
at least every year you end up with something that never showed up.
that's why the capital plan document is such a fungible
Hmm.
thing, because it's gonna change. I mean, it's no different than the vision. It's gonna change what it
Indeed.
is. So it's gotta be somewhat,
It's Derek's way
Elastic.
of keeping the department managers somewhat happy.
Yeah, I think it's part of that too.
that's a good part of it right there.
Called
Yeah,
management.
I mean, exactly, and, I can't really argue with some of his decisions, because they've come up right, what we've needed. The electrical vehicles there on there, that's because these leases are expiring, and this would be replacing them. Which makes more sense, when
Are
you
we
look at.
replacing them or just releasing them for a longer period?
I think we're replacing, did you
Yeah.
say replacing? Yeah,
Believe he did,
replacing.
yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
lease is
replace.
expired and replacing them.
That accounts for only 25K we're not buying.
I think these are electric Lamborghinis, aren't they?
Teslas.
Yeah,
which town got the BMWs about 3 years ago?
oh, yeah.
Was that Rochester, or it was some other town that got BMWs? They leased them, and,
Well, initially, there was a lot of grants available too, so subsidies.
mhm.
The
Not
chairman of the
necessarily.
finance committee got one of them, right? Didn't that happen?
Of Rochester, of course, yeah, Rochester.
Goes-
Because he never mentioned it to me. I have to tell a funny story. I came one morning, it's around 9 o'clock. I visit Kelly every once in a while. And he's sitting there, he's on a conference call.
Who?
Derek,
Derek?
in his car, he has more privacy sitting out in the parking lot
Sure, I believe it.
when he comes into his office.
Yep.
With the reason I thought it's on, he's getting his car charged at the same time. Any other concerns regarding the request? The street lights and the period lights, he hates those lights because he has to cannibalize the ones that don't work. Make sure the ones that only need a few parts.
They're very expensive.
Indeed.
Yeah,
They look nice,
But they're beautiful. They're only on a few streets.
You know, I know, yeah.
You got any on your street?
No, I don't even have street lights on my streets. We had to pay for it.
I don't have street lights either. But part of the code was that everyone has a street lamp, a lamp post
Yeah.
out at the end of their driveway, and it's on a photoelectric cell. I'm the only one that still has it on. Everybody else turned them off. But the upgrading the police weapons, and as it points out here, the chief couldn't remember, and he's been here a long time,
Right.
when they replaced him. And it's unbelievable with the amount of, because they're required to do target practice and the like, how those weapons do wear out. And the chambers can be get very loose.
right.
Any other questions? Do you want any more information perhaps that Jim might require regarding the loader?
I just object to the way it gets presented, that's all.
I'll get some more information, give it to Bernie.
What do you think? You?
It's fine, but I mean,
When you're done, bring it out.
I don't know
Yes.
enough to make a valid.
This is a loaded question for you, boss, I'm sorry. How can the water, the sewer department come and ask for capital improvements when it's sitting on 7 million in retained earnings?
That's where the money's coming from.
I
They
understand
still
that,
need authorization to do so.
but they wanted the town to borrow 2 million,
Well, they brought up the issue of borrowing, yes.
but they have 7 million in retained earnings. They shouldn't be looking for money from anywhere.
Well, I agree.
Except for to spend their
They should
retained
come in-
earnings.
Yeah,
So that's what they're doing, they're just going to be spending the existing monies that they have.
yeah, because
Right
you're saying,
now-
But,
We've got an article for 3.175 million.
To borrow.
no,
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 retained earnings.
Okay, good, that's what I want to know.
because they have 7 million.
Yeah, you gotta leave some in retained earnings.
No, I
Is
understand that, I
Yeah.
understand that, I
We
understand.
have to keep 3.
that what it is, free?
Is it
I
that
mean,
high?
you have a blow up, you've gotta,
Oh, yeah, I mean,
This
if
could
we
be
have a
cost of
situation like Plymouth had or Nantucket had,
$20 million, $30 million in Plymouth.
we're
more
SOL.
than that.
And what's critical
I
about
think they're up around 60 right now.
our system is some of those mains are running through wetlands, which in the 70s you could do, but you can't do anymore. So if they blew, I don't think they would
See,
allow us to repair it.
One of the things that we've been trying to do is to get a program going. What I'd like to see is at least $1 million a year going into relining pipes. Because if we reline them, that means they can be done while they're in the ground. You don't have to excavate them, you don't have to bring them up, you don't have to worry about digging down and have the potential of something breaking. Plus, time frame for disturbance for the public as a whole is far less.
Mhm. And you recover your I&I, so it reduces the amount of water you have to process.
Exactly. Plus, with the lining, with what we're doing, or what we did at Swiss Beach in this last one, I mean, that's gonna strengthen the pipe, and the pipe is gonna be better than what it was new, as far as strength-wise, so it's gonna,
Danny Warren.
yeah,
Yeah, I know Danny.
yeah, I mean,
He designed that,
yeah, he's got the product.
he's a
Do
rich
you have any
man.
pieces of that pipe that you may have had to pull up, sitting around the yard that shows how worn out they are and all?
We don't pull it up.
I know, but if you had a piece that you had to for whatever reason,
Well, I don't even know if he has any.
yeah.
Off
Be
the top of
perfect to
my
sit
head, I
out,
don't know.
sit it outside or in the lobby of town meeting, and they could see just how bad the pipes are.
A small piece.
Right.
I mean, you could go to Rome
A
and
small,
get some
clean
that is
piece.
2,000 years old.
Can't travel to Italy right now.
I was surprised in Italy, that is, they have the oldest, or the population of elderly in the world. Of all the countries, they have the largest population of elderly.
You know, the most people over 100 years old live is the island off of Italy, Sardinia.
No.
Yeah,
It's an island in Japan.
I heard it was in Sardinia.
Yeah, here's Sardinia, not too
Yeah,
far.
not too long ago I heard of the news.
Maybe one or two or one, they swap places,
Well,
depending upon what.
And the oldest individual or the oldest?
No, most people over 100. There's more people over 100 years old living in Sardinia than any other, that's what I heard on the news.
You in for a buck?
Yeah, I'm down, you know I'm a gambler.
You know, just east of,
Google it, Tommy.
just east of here. The island is just east of here, right?
Yes.
Dominic's gonna go out, move into the island, so at his age, he can lower the rate down to the rate of number 3 then.
I got good genes in my family, they're all old.
Okay, anything else on that? We're all done.
I'm not gonna do it.
All set, thank you very much, Jim.
You're entirely welcome, thank you. And I will get this info to you ASAP.
Appreciate that. And there, let's see, some of the articles for the special were adopted by, voted to be on the warrant last night by the selectmen. They didn't vote approval or anything, they just voted on the warrant. Next week, they'll do their votes. So
We'll
that,
vote after that, after they vote, Bernie will vote.
they're doing the special,
Yeah,
and that closes tomorrow.
okay,
And we've gone over the ones that we do have.
okay,
The ones that they put on the warrant last night, we haven't seen yet.
okay.
Cassandra usually sends them over to us, and I don't believe she did today, I didn't see anything. So let's go on, and the next item, to review and vote on the annual town meeting warrant articles. Shall we go over them one at a time? One, the election of officers, that's a housekeeping, recurring business is housekeeping, compensation of certain appointed officials, and they are the town clerk, registrar, and the moderator. As far as I know, let's see, town clerk,
Hold on.
75.7. The registrar was $700. I looked in the budget before I came here, as a matter of fact, and that position wasn't singled out as registrar. There's registrars, plural, that are hired to work the polls. But the $700 was in constantly the previous years, so I put that in. The moderator is $120 per diem. She has not had a raise in several years either. But she only gets one night. Then the next one, revolving funds, that's again a housekeeping issue. The occasion reports, that's again a housekeeping issue. And those, particularly as we mentioned earlier, are reports that were specifically requested by town meeting. And we don't have any.
I have a question. I just got the write-up of this thing in the Wareham Week, so you let people read. And if you get down to selfish propagation, selfish permit fees plus 20% of all fees derived from selfish permit. Isn't that a redundancy?
You got your list articles I can
Revenue source for,
Oh,
This is mine.
huh?
That's
Yep.
all I have.
Oh, you just have, that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have the articles listed, that's okay though.
Only lawyers could understand.
I didn't get a chance to go home, that's why. Sorry, I had to take that cut.
Okay, on 1 through 5.
I'll make a motion to approve Articles 1 through 5.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those No discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Yes.
On the capital plan, I'd like to wait, I have the charts all done, and Jerry, David and I were going over them yesterday, but there's a few that mathematically don't match what the department heads gave to us on the review, and I would suggest that what they gave us on the review is what they would like, and compromising as to, what Derek would allow him to have, but, because it doesn't match mathematically, I just wanna refer back to him. Oh, I apologize. That's Article 6, which is the capital plan, and I'm talking budget, my apologies. On the capital plan,
Jim's going to get some more information on that for us.
okay, we'll hold on that.
Can I make a comment on
Certainly.
this figure here? Retained earnings of 7 million,
Yes,
for financial statements is 15.7 million.
the auditors come out of DOR, it makes a statement of 7 million.
And for the, I know that the town government has 7 million.
No, the,
DOR.
Water pollution.
DOR said that
certified,
for the pollution control?
Yeah, certified.
That as 7 million?
Yes.
DOR did?
mhm,
Okay. all
I'll
right.
give you the.
It's
I'll get
7
the
and
letter.
change, but yes,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think
Then,
it's,
another question, then why would the auditors have 15 million? I saw that too.
Timing.
unrestricted is 15 in
Yeah.
WPCF, but,
And, yeah, and that's the wording here, on retained earnings.
right,
Retained earnings, see, that's what I'm saying, retained earnings, which is typically that 15.7. If there was other wording, free cash or for the pollution control. I'm just questioning that wording of that sentence, because the audited financials say
Mhm.
unrestricted, which is basically retained earnings of 15.7.
Okay,
So I'm just, I'll have to go on the website to look to see where,
okay.
okay. It's just, we're not gonna approve it anyway, but I just had a question on that.
I would
Yeah,
love
and
to
I
know
said
the answer to that.
Yeah, because we get a document that has free cash line, and then it has the retained earnings
Yeah.
certified.
Yeah.
They keep crying. Oh.
So on the capital plan, may I have a motion? Oh, excuse me, I apologize, we're waiting for more info.
This is just for that one vehicle to purchase? 270 million? That was
Yes. Yeah.
70,000,
Jones.
excuse me.
What is 70,000?
Yeah. I'm not, as far as I'm concerned, you can pass that. We can pass it, we get the information later.
Okay, why don't you make a motion?
Huh?
Make a motion.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what they're doing with it, but I have no problem passing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know, I mean, they might keep it this, you know.
It's just so we
take
better
parts off of it.
understand.
I mean, I don't know.
So we're gonna pass that out for further information.
I'm not seeing.
I don't see it
well,
there.
they say the information will not change their mind, they just want to know that information, that's
Next
all.
page, yes,
As far as Tom is
Okay,
concerned.
and that-
right.
I agree.
All I was trying to do is say, that's the type of information we have to look at before we even vote.
Are we gonna get that information, Bernie, before?
They say
No,
we're
it's
gonna get
just
it.
Thomas said he's satisfied with the document, with the request,
General
he just
fund.
would like the information.
Okay.
But if you feel differently, that's quite all right also.
Right.
Oh, we will hold it.
I just don't want to do slow.
Let's hold it for the information, I guess. You'll not pass it anyways?
Yeah, I would pass it. I mean, you want to go against Derek and say, we're not going to
No,
give it to you?
I'm all for it. I mean, I just think
Okay.
we should get
Then may I have a motion to approve?
second, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion's made, may I have a second?
Second?
Motion made and seconded, any other further discussion?
This is for
the capital plan,
capital plan.
Article 6, my apologies for the confusion.
Well, that's, it would be nice to get some additional information before approving it. I don't have a problem with the general concept, but I think there have been some questions about information. I'd like to defer it until
Okay?
our next meeting.
So you're voting against that, but we gotta carry this thing
I
through
would-
to the.
May I ask you to withdraw,
I'll withdraw my motion.
draw a second?
Second.
Okay, that's back off the table.
All right.
And the budget, as I was explaining earlier, and again apologize, there were some mathematical errors somewhere along the line, so I just want to clarify them. Everything's in place and ready to go. The EMS, Article 8, the
Can I-
EMS, yes.
Excuse me, I'd like to make one comment. The budget for fiscal year 20 is 8 months in, and we haven't seen the first report
You want the
of
audit?
how we're doing.
Want an audit? Okay.
No, the monthly report of what how our spending is going versus what the budget is.
Yeah, that would be the audit. Well, by say audit, I don't mean the one from the auditor. I mean
No,
the
I
one from
mean-
Judy downstairs. She's supposed to produce one.
I'm assuming we get,
How much they've spent
every,
in their
every
budgets.
month, the
How much
town
money's
manager
left,
gets.
monthly.
compared to how much
Yeah,
they spent,
yeah.
sure, you need that,
Yeah,
don't you?
the revenue and expense, monthly revenue and
Yeah,
expense.
and it's 8 months and we haven't seen any,
Exactly, yeah.
which is our discipline on the town manager, I think.
Okay, then, Article 8, Emergency Medical Services, EMS,
Make a motion
comes
to
with
approve
$1,753,105, and it's paid out of the earnings from medical services. So it's a separate article, and they are self-sufficient.
Make a motion for approval on Article 8.
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded, discussion. The line item, the very last line item in their budget is capital. And they just received a grant from Toby, South Shore, South Coast Hospital. And I believe I was advised that was to pay off the balance of their lease on the ambulance that they,
Yes, that's my
Now-
understanding.
so now they own it.
It's a new
Yes.
ambulance, $260,000, right?
Right, but we,
I'd already said we were gonna.
no, that was the one that we authorized, I believe it was last year, as a lease purchase.
Is that the second one or the third one?
Third one.
Was the third one.
Okay.
And so what I understand is that South Coast paid off the lease for us.
Yeah, it was in the paper, yeah.
It's a good
Right.
old tax-free business.
So they didn't buy a new one for us, they paid off the lease on the one we had already obtained. So there may be some monies coming back
Yeah, but in
to
this
the
case,
town on that.
and in this case though, those monies just wouldn't be spent and it go back into their retained earnings.
Right,
Doesn't go into our,
doesn't go into,
general fund.
Yep.
The motion's made and seconded, any further discussion? Being done, all those in favor say aye.
aye,
Opposed, abstentions? No. Unanimous, 700. Upper Cape budget, Article 9,
Make a motion to approve Article 9.
Did we get it? I mean, we got the presentation last week, but.
We're not voting on it till tomorrow night.
Right,
So
so.
if you wanna
it
wait till we vote on it, and I get you the
didn't- I
number?
mean, the formal one didn't go to Derek yet, did it?
Okay, no, no one's got it. It hasn't been approved by the school
it has
committee
been
board until
approved by
tomorrow
the
night.
board,
Tomorrow
but
night,
Derek has had a figure from Dutch.
yeah.
Okay. So,
So why don't we vote on it next
And
week then?
Hold it next week.
We'll wait next
And
week.
it'll, yeah, that's the only reason. Is they're voting on the figure that Dutch gives them, and Dutch shared the figure with Derek, so he can do his
But I can bring it
calculations.
in too. I'll bring it to us next week.
I can tell you what it is. Mm-hmm.
Will you give me the number, Bernie?
Yeah, I have it here. Here it is.
Yeah, 3.6 or something like that.
Yeah. a special board that votes on that town's budget? Is that what
Actually-
that works? Because there were two Wareham guys on the,
Yeah, no, we don't, the budget subcommittee brings it to the committee as a whole and it's voted on, not individually. We vote on the whole budget as a group. So in other words, the Wareham guys don't just vote on Wareham's budget, no, it's voted on as a group.
And then it's a portion based on the,
Then, yeah, but they break it all down. Before we see it, it's broken down, which town pays and how many students and what it is and the whole deal.
now their budget is $3,703,661.
how would you like to be presenting that budget to Falmouth and see the Wareham number?
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Motion's made, now may I have a second?
This is for,
Okay.
Right?
okay, thought we agreed we would put that off until,
It hasn't been approved by the school committee, so I don't know,
Do you prefer? What is the wish
I
of the
think we
committee?
should defer it.
we'll defer till next week and I'll
Okay.
give you the vote and then the exact number and everything next week.
That way we'd have the right
And we can
number.
vote on it,
Uh-huh.
okay?
Next Article 10, the enterprise fund, total of $7,551,648. Any questions? There being none, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the WPCF Enterprise Fund.
May I have a
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain. I don't like to make a run.
Why?
But you don't have to abstain, you can be against it.
No, I'm just abstain my vote, it's easier that way.
Okay,
What is it, is it the EDI?
That's
What's that?
Is it the EDUs?
Yeah, definitely, that's been a car of mine. Don't get me started.
So you can write the minority, they have EDUs.
Dominic, the only difference between you and I is I'm just not as emotional about it.
Okay, I said I wear my heart on my shirt, I'm sorry, guys.
Just like the person saying not present at the.
All right, then I'll vote no. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
All right. I'm against.
I already recorded your vote, you can't change it.
I don't care. Doesn't matter. Next.
Well, somebody at town
601.
meeting may say, who voted against it, why did they vote against it, so you could get up and say what you wanna say. I mean,
As a
God,
member of the board representing,
If someone asks who the negative was, I'll say it.
Yeah,
You know,
so
I don't
that-
want
It's
to be
negative, it's just an
That's,
abstention.
that's why you
it's
do
just
it.
an abstention, say you were on the board, so you preferred, then you were in,
And for these
have to give
reasons.
your opinion, of course. You have, certainly I would hope you'd be biased.
I'll be there with a sweatshirt that cool you off.
Okay.
He was
You know, I ran
coordinating.
for the sewer commission and they didn't want me in, you know, they held signs up against
I
me,
thought
got
he
a
had-
lady in.
I thought you had to be on sewer, you should be on to run for that.
He is.
I know, really, I ran for the sewer.
Did you
board.
really?
Yeah, I got beat by some lady or some nobody, because the whole town was picketed against me, they didn't want me on that board.
Well, when you've lost an election by one vote, that's when you can talk.
Okay.
Article 11, to endorse the master plan.
I'll make a motion to, endorse it, sure.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous, 700. Amending the zoning bylaws, Article 12, which is the signs.
I'll make a motion to accept Article 12.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. I'll have to ask him if he want, how much of this he feels I should reprint.
What was that, Bernie?
I'll have to ask Ken how much he feels it should be reprinted in our report. We may have to reprint the whole thing. But that's okay, if that's required.
An
because
appendix
it's,
or something like that, you could do it too.
Not that it's
In
part of the
here, it
article
just says,
itself.
Yeah.
just says article on a copy, which is on
You
file.
could say the
Yeah.
It's real long, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve, please?
made the motion to accept it.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
I did.
It's all, yeah,
Motion's made and seconded. Was it before? Did I already have one?
yeah, you
already
already
had
know
all
that.
Now we vote.
I should remember to take,
Don't
it's not
pull a
my
Biden,
meds, it's the
don't
wine.
don't pull a Biden on us now, come on.
You know, you-
My wife said, okay,
All those in
Joe.
favor?
Okay, Joe.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, thank you for keeping me out of trouble. Next, Article 13. Amend the zoning bylaw, the definition of a two-family or a duplex dwelling. It's a clear clarification of existing language.
Make a motion to approve Article 13.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Amend the zoning bylaw update. It's, my understanding that the planning board, oh, we should have asked, Richard, maybe that's why he left so early.
We're gonna split the flood.
They
Did
were-
they
they are-
did
they're
they
going
split
to.
it, Bernie?
They're going to do it. There's
Right.
only, the latest information I have is, zoning bylaw excerpt 222, which is the one that's required by FEMA in order for them to get their insurance.
That's the only one they're gonna do this time?
Yes,
Now that we know that,
We-
100% for sure to vote on it tonight, or should we wait to see it, or what do
it's,
you think?
Board of Selectmen have not voted on it yet.
no, they have, because they were looking for clarification that the, the planning board had split it.
Yeah, that meeting we went to, they said that only one of them was mandated by the state, and the
Yeah,
other
right.
one, there was all kinds of controversy on.
I would
Yes.
suggest that, qualify the motion to approve the first half, section 222. Because if they bring it up, because that's the only half we should apply. However, if it's your choice, we'll just say no and we'll wait till we get further qualification to be sure that that is the article they're bringing forward.
Right, because wouldn't it be hard for us to vote on Article 14 as written right now? It's hard. I'd like to see the updated version
Yeah,
before we
'cause
vote.
the article
agree.
itself, as it was posted, it says found in Article 2 subsection 222 and Article 4 subsection 420, a copy of which blah, blah, blah. So the article itself contains both of them. I think what you're looking for is clarification that they're gonna amend and only present 222.
Correct.
Okay, we'll hold off on that then. Moving on then to Article 15. Which is community preservation. This is a reappropriation of the, under various accounts. They have 3 accounts, and it's required by law that they have a certain percentage in each.
Make a motion to approve Article 15, please.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Harbor Services Permit, Article 16. This is one of the typical things that he does out of the appropriations for the vehicle lease and for the onset floating dock bond anticipated nudes.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 16 as written.
And I'll second that. There's no impact on taxes
Right,
from
it's
this at all.
money from the parking,
It's
yeah.
all money taken care of from
Their permits, yeah.
their permits. Yep.
The motion's made, do we have a second? Do I hear a second also?
I second it.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Being none, unanimous? Next one, the charter amendment for the appointed town clerk. Article 17.
I mean, I think it's a good thing, I mean, I'll make a motion to accept some of the, although the word around town is it's gonna be really contested, but.
Yes, unfortunately,
the old town clerk is against, I mean, there's a lot of talk about it,
The
so.
old town clerk was before she was against it.
Yeah, she's
I mean,
against it.
I'm not saying anything negative about Mary Ann, she's a
No,
very
no,
nice
no,
person.
no, excellent lady, I just heard a lot of people,
Well, it makes sense
it
that,
makes sense.
that this is an appointed position that reports to Derek. Right now, the only person that the town clerk doesn't report to anybody in particular, report to the voters.
Right.
Because the voters put that person in there.
She's all-
Every 3 years.
And as the town of Marion found, this can be a very dangerous situation.
Well, it can be dangerous in, you know, I read all that stuff that, Mrs. Whitehouse, White had, brought to us, and you can elect someone who doesn't have the capability to do the job, doesn't have the job requirements. So why would, you know,
This
why
is a
would,
Trumpy saying that, right?
what was that again, Tom?
Well, let me say that.
You know, you know, I mean, this makes sense. So
Yes.
I'll make a motion for
Well,
approval.
let me put it in greater
Go ahead.
detail, is what you're referring to. The duties of the town clerk governed by federal, state, and local bylaws include acting as chief registrar of voters, chief election official, recording officer, registrar of vital records, public records official, supervisor of voter registration and licensing officer, managing an election in, well, the one we just had,
Yeah,
is the comments here, is like choreographing a ballet. And in addition, she is a justice of the peace. She makes a fee which she can hold in her own pocket, it does not go in our general fund, $100 per marriage. And if she performs the services out of town, it's $150.
Second.
attaboy.
Motion's made and seconded, and the, bringing up Pickles' alleged theft that he's had, and the like, that is the most negative reference you can possibly make, as to say that we have no control over them, because unfortunately Marion, unlike us, does not have a recall in their charter.
Right.
So he's there, irrespective of being, he could have been allegedly a convicted felon, sitting in jail and collecting his town clerk salary. Unless they could find something in the MGLs that says a felon cannot continue collecting. The only way they could have
You
done
gotta love a guy who dies a month before his court case, you gotta love him.
if that still can pursue, they can pursue it against the estate.
There's a state, yeah, money for money, yeah.
Not
But he
the
can't-
case itself, the felony is dead.
Right, you can't do time,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they gotta go after the money.
Yep.
His wife, yeah.
That's right, his wife was charged too.
Yeah.
Okay, on the motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It's important that we write
I don't
the,
understand, so I'm gonna be undecided
You want to
On
abstain?
17,
On the town clerk.
on the town clerk.
on the town clerk thing, because I don't understand that, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
excuse us.
right now,
Can we
Wait.
withdraw the motion?
Oh, try.
Just for the purposes of, okay, motion's withdrawn.
right now, the town clerk in the town of Wareham is an elected position,
Yes.
just like a selectman.
Yes.
So as a consequence, the town clerk does not report to Derek like all the other town people do. She does not report to the selectmen. She reports to the voters. So, which is fine, but at the same time, there are certain requirements for a town clerk. Now, I could be a elected town clerk and not have those requirements, but I would have the job. And in the next 3 years, maybe I can get the qualifications.
Anybody can be on the ballot, get enough signatures,
But even if I never get the qualifications,
we can
the
elect
town
them.
still has to pay me for it.
Well, and
If elected.
If
the
elected.
whole office run very poorly as a result and not
Right.
serve
That would hurt the
citizens.
town.
So I don't go along with that.
So you think they should be elected?
And not appointed.
Why?
And not appointed.
Why?
Why do you feel that's better?
I could get on the ballot to be town
I
clerk, would you
think-
elect me? I don't know nothing about it. See what I mean? I get enough people to vote for me, I become town clerk. I ain't got a clue what the job entails.
Give Pat a chance to say what her point of view is.
Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to think that out.
Oh.
I can't make
Okay,
that.
why don't we-
Judy wrote up a very good write-up of the
Why?
rationale behind it, a couple of pages, it is worthwhile reading, it gives you an insight into.
You get it in your folder?
And Judy was here a couple of weeks ago.
Right, Pat wasn't here when Judy came in, so it-
Right now, the appointed town clerk is Claire, isn't it?
no,
No.
It's
this
the
is
moderator,
Town
it's the
moderator.
moderator.
Oh, that's the moderator.
This
No.
is Silva.
Oh, the town clerk,
It's downstairs, it does all the
Runs the
paperwork.
elections, keeps all the records.
okay.
Used to be
So
Mary Ann.
Yeah,
right, and,
Yeah.
no, and there's,
so now you've had a discussion and decided that the girl who is appointed town clerk should be qualified.
no, wait, no. What we said is that we do not have an appointed town clerk. We have an elected town clerk in Wareham.
Okay, that was Mary Ann.
And also Michelle, she
The
was
new lady,
elected.
yeah.
And the new town clerk, as an elected official, has no requirements to know the job.
Now, that doesn't mean,
We happen to
Michelle
get
doesn't know
lucky,
it.
she
We're not
does.
saying
We happen to get lucky, she does.
we're not saying that,
Where she
Yeah.
came from.
You're giving me an answer and you're giving
Yeah,
me an
that's
answer
fine.
at the same time.
I won't
So
say
I
that.
can't understand two
Let's
answers.
let David talk, excuse me.
all right.
Okay,
Withdraw your
Thank
answer.
you.
Withdraw my hands.
We're not saying that who we have as town clerk now, or we had as town clerk previously, didn't do a good job.
okay,
Has nothing to do with that.
okay.
Unfortunately, we've had good people in there.
Mm-hmm.
But, I could have run and they could have elected me, and they could have had a terrible person in there who got elected but didn't have the qualifications to do the job.
So in other words, you haven't got like, if you ran and then I decided to run, we'd be up against one another, and I might be more qualified than you,
Right,
so the people should vote for me rather than you.
Well, actually, Pat, if
But-
you take David and you as you currently sit,
Yes.
if you're elected town clerk, do you know what to do?
No, but
No.
I could go ask
Yes,
around.
but now that office is very critical
Yes.
to a lot of the things, records and stuff.
Yes, and I
and so now-
understand what you're saying.
Okay, now it's gonna take you time, providing you wanna do it. You
Yeah.
have no requirement to get any certification because you're elected.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And if the person is appointed, they're required even to apply for the job, to have all the requirements that the job needs.
Okay, so Mary Ann,
She
as
learned
a
on the job.
comparison.
She retired.
As a comparison.
Yeah.
Mary Ann retired, but previously, she knew what was going on there.
She
so
learned on the job.
right,
She learned on the job
mhm,
and was there for a lot of years.
Forever.
right.
And so we really didn't run into a lot of problems because she knew what was going on.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
No one's
No.
saying anything against Mary Ann for this.
Okay, no, I understand
Yeah,
that.
The
we're
real,
just saying time has
I-
changed to the point the requirements are a lot more, and we're paying someone $75,000 a year. So I think I would like them to know what they're doing.
Okay,
the,
that, you know.
and if the services weren't good out of that department, Derek would have no leverage to do anything, until the next election,
They
and then
can't
he
buy her.
could,
3 years away.
yeah. So it puts him in a it puts
The
him in a
town.
position to control the quality of work that's going through that.
So an
department.
appointed town clerk will be appointed by
Derek.
Derek.
Derek. All right. And we
In-
will trust Derek
Human
to
resource,
appoint somebody good.
yeah,
Yeah.
human resources will be required to draw up a job qualification,
Yeah,
as they do for every
okay.
position.
See, I missed that whole
Yeah, you were on this,
conversation.
yeah.
Right,
See, I look at it too, to keep some continuity down there, because if you have an assistant town clerk, they got the incentive to go out and get a lot more of the training, because when that person retires, they can apply for the job, and it might be just a smooth transition.
Yeah, okay,
You
that's,
know, I mean, in a perfect world, that's how it
I'm not
works,
too
but.
worried about this.
Do you wanna hold off on this and give it some more
No,
thought?
we can vote,
Okay.
and I will go along with,
Okay, may I have the
The way it
motion
is.
again, please?
Make a motion to approve Article
17.
17.
17.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's unanimous. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for explaining that.
The charter amendment, Article 18, is to add sewer commission to as elected officials. It's more of a secretarial thing that they wanted the name in there because they are not currently listed as elected officials.
Make a motion to approve Article 18.
That was more of a housekeeping.
Yeah.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Unanimous? Charter amendment, delete the Board of Road Commissioners, Article 19.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion.
Why did we decide we didn't want a board of road commissioners?
They felt the selectmen were already doing it, and they had done it in the past.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Did everybody agree with my explanation?
Yeah, and
Basically a
I think
housekeeping
the commission
thing.
fell apart too. They had nobody doing it, so
Yeah.
selectmen were doing it anyways.
Very good. May I have a motion, please?
So
Made the motion already.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Again, Judy put together a good explanation on all of these charter changes. So I think if you look in your notes, you'll see them.
I got a lot of notes,
You did get a lot of notes.
so
But-
Article 20. Article 20 is the transfer of the John William Deacon Elementary School to the selectmen as soon as it has been abandoned.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kim wants to get rid of it as soon as she can. She probably will, by the time they empty out the school, because it took them so long to mine it, and all the equipment in there, the town is gonna come up and say, well, it should find a buyer. She couldn't find a buyer for any of that crap. Nothing. No one wanted it. So she'll probably have to.
Yeah, but the Deacon's Elementary School has some additions on there too, don't
Roof, they did a roof and a boiler recently.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think we
know
added
they
to it
did
though.
that.
We added to mine it.
Well,
There was
there was a temporary
There was some temporary
Deacon-
structures that went on.
Class, the temporary,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
the
Deacons-
portable classroom.
Deacon's
yeah, when
has
we had the
some
peak in class, yeah,
attaches, yeah.
Right.
yeah. They
So
run
what
back,
happens to them?
they took them all out, they're gone.
Oh,
That school is doing very well in terms of how their students are.
I saw in the, real estate evaluation, the nationals, and Deacon's school came up very high.
Well, the teacher got the teacher of the year, and the second grade teacher got a teacher of the year award. They've got a lot going on there.
Bethany runs a good shop.
Yep.
The other two are petitioned articles. Article 21 will be withdrawn. The way it was phrased, and Alan picked up on it, it would be renaming the Degas School as the current Degas School versus the one that's being built. So we'll leave that blank and say info that it's going to be withdrawn. And Article 22, the actual renaming of the school. Do we want to make a motion on that, or do we want to make a recommendation on that? How does the committee feel?
I don't think we should.
Yeah, I say defer to town meeting, boy, that's gonna be a
Right.
I was
food
gonna say,
fight.
I think we should,
Yeah.
just, how do we put that, we all abstain, so that,
Refer to
No,
town
defer
meeting.
to town meeting.
there you go, no financial,
No financial
no
impact.
financial impact, and we felt that it wasn't our place to vote, is whatever you said, yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah,
more
town
letters
meeting is-
in Wareham Elementary School, so you gotta buy more letters, so it's a little more expensive.
That'll wait, Tommy.
Yeah, a motion to refer,
To town meeting?
To town
Yes,
meeting,
so
yeah, I think
moved.
that's a good idea.
Second.
motion made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna speak on this when it comes to it.
That's gonna be interesting.
Very.
I'm speaking from the point of view as a veteran.
Larry's gonna, he's already trying to get, he's gonna pack the place.
Who,
Mike. Larry. Already trying to round up people.
Well,
Yep,
What's he
That's-
wanna do?
name it. You put in, he's a petitioner.
he's the
could be the
chairman.
Flaherty
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a school committee, he's on the school committee.
So it's the Wareham Elementary School, is that what he wants?
It's what he wants.
And then each wing, when the deacons, when the minor.
Oh, yeah,
that'd be good.
okay.
never gonna happen.
You know as well as I know,
From my point of view,
depends on
that-
how many people are in there voting.
That's right.
You have a small turnout,
Now,
you
it
can
may
change
be-
the vote very easily.
It may be named that, and as they said before, that, oh, well, they'll name one wing Diggers, one wing Minus, and I know you walk in there and says, I need to go to room 342. Take that elevator, go up and turn left. The fact that it's the Diggers wing will lose. Anyway, moving right along
Well, the
here.
same thing, if it's a deacon school at minor forest, nobody's, the forest part's gonna be long gone
Oh, indeed.
when the first kid walks into the door.
Okay,
Into a mouthful.
now, a certain young lady is going on vacation, and she won't get back until April 2nd, the day after my birthday. I'm very disappointed she won't be here at the celebration.
Kelly deserves a
You
vacation,
were born on the first,
and I vote for you to take one.
Thank you.
They get vacations.
My mother tells a story that the baby says, here's your April Fool's baby. It could be your president someday. She loves that story. Sorry to disappoint her. Discussed in the deadlines for printing the report. Because we now go to Staples, which has been very good, getting it there, let's see, 2 weeks before is a piece of cake. And they'll take care of it for us. I've already checked with them. And so Kelly has plenty of time to put in the things that she needs to do. And everything we do now will be reasonably simple. All the charts are in Excel. We'll just transfer them over to PDF, no problem at all, convert them, and we can get the whole document down to Staples. We're going to try, and I checked with Staples already, like the first half or the first couple pages could be white. We'll have the annual in a particular color, could be light green. The special could be another light pink. And then the last part, because it's gonna hold colored charts, and that's the only section we're gonna be paying for printing, I beg your pardon. And that will be in white pages, and they'll print that off in color. So the charts that Derek had made, the big pie charts and all, we can reprint all those in color.
Good.
And so a good impact on
It'll
that.
look good in color, yeah.
And so that should do very well.
you can have the glossary in there?
Oh, yes, we'll be,
we
yeah,
always have that.
Kelly always puts up a front, yeah, the front part of it, yeah. So just to make you aware, and so it'll be 2 weeks before town meeting is when we actually have to have everything in. Because I would like some people, and we'll get to that, well, that's down further. Special town meeting closes, the warrant closes tomorrow, so next Wednesday we'll have a meeting and we'll do all those articles. I think there's upwards of 16 of them. And yeah, and I've only had 5 that I know of.
I think, I don't know if there's 16, I was looking at what Cassie had, and it seemed like the annual was kind of stapled to, yeah, so I don't know about that, but
I know,
I'll look tomorrow
I
what
was
she.
surprised, because I think Peter said 16, and that's the
It
only
looks
thing.
like it to me, but then I'm like, why are there 2 number 8s? Why are there 2 number 9s? It didn't make sense to me, and it looked like some were annual articles, I'm not sure. But I'll
Last
check
time they
with
said
you
they had a
again.
numbering problem at the selectmen's
He
meeting.
did mention that,
There was a
'cause
numbering
I-
problem at the selectmen's meeting last
Yeah,
year. Right.
yeah.
because I
What
only
she
have
showed
Not sure
me.
when it is,
listed
but-
that you've already given to me.
What's that?
I've only have 6 that you have given to me.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's all I've received, so I'll check again with her tomorrow. I think she was confused as well, what she got back from them.
Peter is prone to doing that. And, okay, on the 18th, I received the official town meeting, special town meeting warrant, so we'll be able to do something there with all of them. April 27th is a town meeting, and there's a potential, because of the virus, to have the town meeting postponed. They have a plan in place. Claire had drawn one up when the town experienced a severe hurricane, and it was around the same time frame. So they drew up a plan by which they could do it. Annual town meeting has been posted, so that can't be postponed. It must be held on that particular night. And so there is a provision in which the town clerk and the moderator can either phone or be in the same room. She call it the meeting to order, because we only have a quorum of 0, and then recess until the time certain that they determine.
Wow,
So that's in place.
so what's when that 0 quorum actually came in?
Mike coming in.
That was the weirdest thing, I wasn't really sure why, but that's a great example of why now.
And yet we've still had the same people throw it.
Oh, yeah.
Had the same numbers. As now Rich Bowen, who is the moderator of his town, Situate, they went to 0, and I asked him, what happened? I had more people. For some reason or other, when they didn't have to show up, they showed up. Now, as far as the coronavirus is concerned, are any of you have any concerns about our meeting like this or anything of that fashion? Let me know. And if we have to meet, we do need a quorum, but if we don't and you're concerned about it, we'll postpone it. We'll take care of it. It'll work out. So please let me know if you're concerned at all.
We could practice having a remote one.
Might have to.
One of the things we were,
No
Jerry,
cases
Dave,
in
and I,
Plymouth County yet, no cases in Plymouth County yet,
We've been very fortunate down this way.
and the Cape also,
none in Barnstable either yet.
and the islands,
Yep.
that canal came in handy. Now-
Something gonna kill you.
Jerry, Dave, and I were together yesterday, and we were enlightened by Jerry as to the amount of money we're actually spending and where it goes. We're pleased to say we have someone on the committee that understands these audit reports.
He's the best at it right there.
And he's
He
gonna
showed me some
dazzle
thi-
us.
He showed me some numbers that scared me.
Yeah, he's gonna dazzle us right now.
Okay.
Yep, you're on.
How long do you think you're gonna be?
But, Tom, this audit
I
report,
gotta leave now.
Okay, go ahead.
That's all right.
this report is 72 pages, I'm only gonna do about 50 tonight. No, I gotta break it up into 10, 10 different, I just wanna do 4 pages. And, the first, on page 6, or I should say on page 7, the auditors put together what they call the government-wide financial statements. These statements are done on a full accrual basis, as opposed to government fund statements, which are done on a cash or current basis. So the total revenues on a full accrual basis, this only excludes one entity, which is the pollution control facility. Our total revenues were 86.3 million. Our total expenses, 86.1. for a change in financial position of $213,000. And that, again, on a full accrual basis. Now, of the 86 million in expenses, there's about 8 line items. And I'll give you the percentage of each type of department expense. Under general government, of the 86 million, that was 9.3%. Public safety, 14.3%.
So what was that?
Public safety,
Yep,
14.3.
yep,
Education, 68.2. Public works, 5.7%. Health and human services, 1.3%. Culture and recreation, 0.8. Community preservation, 0.2, and interest expense, 0.3. Which I suppose is good. Interest expenses, and you know, it's a bad thing, but it was only 145,000 of the 86 million. So, put another way, of the 86 million, 59 million was school.
It's a
So
lot of
we
money.
don't underfund the schools.
now, I have another question. Given the amount of money the grants get and add the total together,
This,
you did for me.
that 58.7 million, okay, is the total expenses of the school. They also have, so I went for it's page 14, okay, of it. They take that 58.7 million and spread out what the school gets in, you know, the school gets money, charges for services, 900,000. Operating grants, and this is what you were asking, Dom, about 24 million.
That's
Okay.
the number.
Capital grants and contributions, 3.7 million. A deficit school, which now this deficit comes from the town, or as it, you know, as our budget is shown, where the town kicks in 30.3 million. So that typically is the number that everyone sees, that that taxpayers believe
Is their budget.
is the school's budget. But basically, that is what the school cannot self-fund and gets from the town. Now, that is not quite the truth, because town gets some monies from the state for school. Okay, so of that 30 million, the town is getting some money from the state and passing it through. But I say this because that is the way the budget is presented. Okay, you can, I believe, and the school, just as the pollution control facility is an enterprise fund, which shows everything, so shouldn't the school or education. Because then, just as the pollution control shows all its grants and so forth, and all its own assets, and all its retained earnings, and all its capital, it would be nice if the school had all, that same thing as a you know, entity, so that we would know, and then we would truly have 3 buckets: the school, the town, and a pollution control facility.
Is that something we can request, Bernie? Is that something that we can request to
Well,
make them do?
Well, all the information is right here, we just.
So I understand that, but
I think what happens is, because the audited financial statements are done with the generally accepted, you know, accounting principles. And I think for the government, this is the way all governmental entities show it. To do it like I said would be taking information that's on here, plus getting information from the auditor's work papers. You know, because you would like to know detail behind some numbers.
yeah,
Then you could present it as an informational item to do it as a budget, you know, unless you broke up the school as an enterprise fund, it'd be like trying to reinvent a budget that's been presented for 20 years, the same. It wouldn't work,
It wouldn't work.
no.
But see,
But I think it should be presented as supplemental,
because
Yeah, we're
it-
gonna-
Like I say, for information purposes,
like in our
or
report.
like a handout of some sort,
Like
just say
in-
this is.
in our report, you know,
Because-
we could say, per audited financials. Okay. Now, that, okay, I just wanna say, if then, now, you put in the pollution control, okay, which had revenue of 8 million and expenses of 7.6 million, they made 373,000. So if you take their revenue, expenses, and profit, and combine it with the column I just gave you for other than,
yeah,
you get the town now having total revenue of 94 million, roughly 400,000.
okay.
Okay, so that's the action in the
Yeah,
town,
add the
94,
income, yeah.
okay? The expenses in the town are 93.8. So that, the town is 586,000 better off.
Yeah, it's just 300-something better off, you know.
Yeah, so now, again, you also have to understand that in these full accrual financials is also all our pension expense, future pension expense, you know how we amortize some every year, well, and we have to put in. So of the liabilities, like on a balance sheet, excluding the pollution control facilities, we show a deficit after all the years of operating. The town is operating a deficit of $43 million.
Yeah.
But contributing to that deficit here is a pension liability, our full pension liability as of June 30th, okay,
That we
of
refer to as
37.5 million.
unfunded liability.
Yeah, unfunded.
Yep.
Unfunded, and unfunded post-employment benefits of 99 million. That, okay, is why we have a deficit of $43 million, because we're showing the full unfunded liability. And that is a
The
financial.
responsible part, but we really don't have to pay it. We're supposed to pay it.
We are paying it.
We're only
Under
paying
the installment plan.
It's a stone pit, but he'll never,
Right, but
Not now,
but it gives you, like, all entities, all corporations, everything, always show this. Every financial statement of any public corporation
it's gonna show that.
is now required to show unfunded. And now the town is. So you would pick up audit financials of any other town, it'd be interesting to
Same
compare.
thing. Pretty
But
close.
you'd be interesting to compare their net position, or call it retained earnings, call it equity, whatever you want. You know, it's how the liabilities exceed the assets. But part of it is, it's not necessarily all current liabilities.
Right.
Like, this is just an unfunded liability that may have to be paid over the projected life of the current employees for health insurance and also the current retired employees.
But what you showed me, which, I mean, the school's always complaining that they need more than the 30 million that we're giving them. Yet, they're getting almost double that to run the school. They get 58 million. And, you know, next time, you know, that needs to be brought up.
Well,
I don't even think the public, I don't even at town meeting, I don't even think that people are aware of this.
They're not.
No,
Okay? They're complaining we're only giving them 30 million, yet they're spending 58 million.
because a lot of the difference between the 30 that we're appropriating
Double.
and the 56 is grants.
That's what I mean.
Comes in grants.
Grant money, but that's double.
Yeah.
Almost double. And they still complain.
But the expense in there of the schools, does it include upkeep?
You look at it as education.
Yeah,
What
education
the
is safe,
town of
yeah.
Wareham is paying for education, both
So
receiving.
that
yeah,
includes your school choice and all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the expense dollars wouldn't be going out if it wasn't for education, so.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and then it would be interesting is, just as you have the pollution control with its own asset enterprise fund, if you could put the school and present that as an enterprise fund with all of its assets, all of its depreciation, all of its interest expense that's coming up on the net, okay?
But no town does that though, correct? There isn't any schools that are, do you guys know of any?
No.
That run it as an enterprise fund?
No,
Is it
no.
even legal to run it
No,
as
you
an
can't,
enterprise?
you
It's not
can't.
even legal to do
No,
that,
it
no.
isn't, it isn't,
Right.
no.
Okay,
But if it were,
if it were, I
then
understand what you're getting at,
paint
sure,
a
yeah,
clear picture.
yeah.
See, I look at it too, and I don't know what numbers, every town does it differently when they come up how much per student they're spending.
Yeah.
You know, they use different formulas, they add different things. I'd be curious that, I'm sure Wareham, and I don't have it in front of me, is way down the bottom. And they're probably using the 30 million or 30 plus per whatever amount of students. But if you took that 58 million and divided by the students, well, you're gonna come up
Per
with a
student,
totally
no.
different number.
But then again, if we do that, to be comparative, all other communities would have to do the same accounting
That's
process.
what I'm saying, every town does it differently.
I would
Really how they want it
suggest
to
it would
look.
make, we would still be the same place.
I think they all do it the same way.
Yeah.
I think that the state requires,
Yeah, when you go into
Spending like
the
21,000.
DESE and you're filling out forms, you're basically taking in the same information sources when you're going online and putting in, and you're going to the DC website to put your information, the town puts it in online. The school department probably puts it in online. And they're kind of like, you take this dollar amount of this account and you put it here. So, we're showing on those reports, I think, the same source of information as the other towns are using. And, so, if you wanna look at it, the cost of education is totally, for everybody in the Commonwealth, probably understated.
right,
I
don't think-
suggest the only place you'll see those figures are in your audit, because very typically, our budget, we have, I think there's 8 or 10 lines that I actually show, and that's just their operating budget as they submit it to us, and that's used for our tax dollars, and some grants that we get
those
from
are some
the state, from
towns
share on
with
the
the net
chocolate
school
cherry sheet.
spending and the,
But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that there's a lot of it that's still over in our general fund, our the retirement, some health care plans,
This
et
is from
cetera,
the
that we
state.
pay
Get to DC.
on our side.
Yep.
It's over 8 million in that alone. So we don't break it out the way they break it out.
Right.
But I would like, Jerry, if you could, put together something you think that would explain that. And I'll give you all the information I have, which is more, not to do with the financial, but with what to do, who we have in the school system. And they can make a comparison to find out for that amount of money, we have 2,600 students or something of that nature. And my list shows where they are pro-choice, private, homeschooled, et cetera, et cetera. So they give them a better perspective of what is being paid. Because I think they'll blow them off their seats at 56 mil.
Yep.
Because I was always appalled when I got the grants that just, because we never received the food service accounts. And that's run totally by federal grants. The only thing we pay for the workers are their benefits. They can't take that out of the grants. They can take their salary out.
Still a scary number.
Well, you wonder, you obviously must have a hole in your pocket then, because you're losing some money.
There are no kids in school anymore.
And that 68% is not unusual for towns. You know, I mean, that's town I came from, where they were right in that area, 67, 68%. You know, it's not unusual.
Okay, Tom left early. I have a list of the liaison for the various departments. Crapola.
you gonna send them out to us?
Yeah, I'll send them out to you.
You need these back?
No, you can keep them. I'll be darned. I printed out 10 of them. Oh, phooey. My apologies.
Joe Biden arises.
And he,
You passed it down.
Don't start,
I won't say nothing,
But you,
but he's already
No, I
our
have the
president.
master.
We're-
you have the master?
Yeah.
All right.
but I'll also, please give some thought, and there's only, please give some thought to be the ones that will be writing certain articles. If you have an article that you're particularly interested in, like to write the recommendation of the finance committee, by all means, let me know. And, but you'll write one up, we'll take a look at it, probably add to it or something, if you, I promised, pretty much in total it'll be printed in, the report. There may be some additional information that one of us
Stuff
usually.
me and elders, huh?
And so the next,
Do you wanna glance at this one?
meeting we'll have is the 18th,
Next week?
yes. We'll have the, special town meeting articles. And that should take care of everything. And then, Kelly, you leave that following week, don't you?
Yes, I'll be here next week,
Yes, you'll be here next week, but not the following week.
and I'll be in that Monday, and then I leave the 24th.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so we'll,
Flying Jet Blue,
well, yes,
you see their report today?
no,
If you wanna cancel, there's no
yeah, I
penalties.
know.
Where you going to?
Just
Naples,
for my information.
Florida.
Florida, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I was gonna say, Naples, Naples, why would you go to Naples?
Please, yeah,
God.
oh, sorry.
Well, my mother's from
Say,
Oh,
God.
and everybody was quiet, I'm like,
Naples, Italy, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
moved, made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you very much.
It's sad how Italy looks now, though.
oh, I
It's
know
really
it.
sad.
Mm.